Yesterday, I asked a question concerning the consciousness being personal, impersonal, and you answered on it with these two channels and switching between the channels. Now, how, and you said, yeah, when you switch to the other channel, when consciousness reveals itself, then you can ask yourself, is it impersonal or personal? So how can one explore this more or better? How can one somehow see?
Yeah. Yesterday, what you saw, you discover that we know consciousness experientially. Although it is a weird kind of experience because there is no form, no shape, no color, but nevertheless, we know consciousness because we experience it. Now, how can we go further? Let's take an example. Let's take the example, the notion that consciousness is limited. And let's take even a restricted form of this belief. That consciousness is limited in time. In other words, that it has a beginning and an end in time. Right? And then let's take the beginning aspect. Now, who can answer this question based on the experience of consciousness if not you? Right? You're the only one. Only consciousness, only you can answer this question. I mean, I could have a huge lab and be a Nobel Prize neuroscientist, if there is such a thing, there must be. But I wouldn't be better equipped than you to answer this question. Would you agree?
Yes.
Yes, right. So you are the only judge of whether consciousness has a beginning, right?
Yes.
Now you know the place, because that's the place from which you derive the certainty of consciousness. So you can go to that place and see whether this place tells you anything about its beginning.
No, it doesn't. No.
Now, if you are the only one who can tell, and if you can't tell one way or the other, it means nobody can tell.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So then, if nobody can tell, how comes that we believe it has a beginning? That's the point. You see? That's useless luggage. To believe that consciousness has a beginning. You see? So that's an example of how you can go to the experience of consciousness. It's negative logic, but it's very efficient.
Okay. So what you're saying is that because it doesn't have a beginning, it can't be related to my little self, to me.
What I am saying is that we cannot answer, for the time being, the question of the beginning of consciousness, whereas we live in a culture and we have adopted the baggage according to which it has a beginning. I mean, there are many schools, but some people would say, okay, it's when the brain gets enough developed. Other people would say, the stupid one, it's when the baby comes out of the womb. That's when it becomes alive. Before that, the baby was dead, but when it comes out of the womb, pop, we cannot kill it. Before we can kill it, but all of a sudden, we cannot kill it. And then others would say, okay, it was at the time of conception. And others would say, no, because this thing is made of two living organisms. And so it traces back to the beginning of life, the first living cell, right? But these are theories, right? The point is that we really don't know, you see. We don't know it, we believe we know. It has a beginning. And if we drop all the belief systems according to which it has a beginning, we will drop also, by the same token, all the belief systems according to which it has an end, right? So that here goes the superimposed limitation along the timeline. But same thing about the limitation in the other dimensions. Like, we believe that consciousness, we believe that there is a kind of one mind, one consciousness policy, that there is a consciousness for every mind, right? That's common, okay. We go to the experience of consciousness and we ask consciousness, are you the consciousness of only this mind, or are you the consciousness of many minds? What does consciousness say? And remember that that's the only source of knowledge for consciousness. There is no other. Consciousness remains silent on this issue, right? Yeah. Which means that you can drop this belief system according to which consciousness is mind dependent. You see what I mean? So then, I'm not saying you should replace one belief system with the opposite belief system. No, that's not necessary. The only thing which is required is to drop all the belief systems, one way or the other.
Okay, I understand. So not substituting it by a new belief, which I at least do out of a reflex. So I try to figure out, oh, this is new somehow, so what is it? Is it personal or not? And I try to substitute this perhaps old belief system, which is beginning to fade away, with a new one, and I can't find any.
No, you shouldn't. Yeah. We shouldn't replace it with... because what we should do instead is understand that by destroying the old belief systems, according to which consciousness is limited and personal and body-based or mind-based, new possibilities become available. And as a result, we can explore, we can experientially explore these new possibilities. And that's what I said yesterday. That's when we move from the theory to the practice. And the new possibilities arise in situations such that, for instance, the decision we would have taken would be different depending on whether consciousness is personal or impersonal. You see, there are situations like that where we come at a fork, right? Mm-hmm. So then, in the past, we have always taken the left road, let's say, the personal road. So now, as an experiment, as a interest for the truth, when we come to this fork, we can take it, as Yogi Berra used to say. But we can choose the impersonal freeway, and then we see what the universal response will be. That's the thing. We shoot a bullet at the universe, and the universe gives us an answer that will somehow tell us something about the universe. Mm-hmm. You see? Yes. It will give us some aspect of the shape of the universe as a result. Yes. And as we shoot more and more and more bullets, the more gets revealed, you see?
Thank you, Francis.
That's how God reveals her face.
Thanks. You and Mahesh have mentioned, and many do, that when you pass through the door or you pass through the eye of the needle, you have to drop everything. And it's not only your possessions, but it's your belief systems. I would say one of the most fundamental belief systems is that you're a body or a mind, or an individual entity. There's one belief system that I have that was triggered by a dream recently that I wanted some help in deconstructing. And it has to do with the belief or existence of other realms. And I have no interest in other realms per se. It's only kind of the belief in them that creates a fear that it's dangerous to step through that door. There are good realms, and there's heaven, great realm. There's hell, that's a bad realm. The Buddhists have all these different realms. I remember at one Buddhist seminar, there's the realm of the hungry ghost. If you were greedy in this lifetime, you reincarnated as a ghost, but that had a tiny mouth, so you could never get enough or intake enough. And about a long time ago, 35 years ago, I had a dream. And you know that it's when you have a dream and it's your own mental projection, it has a different quality and a feel. But sometimes in the dream world, it's very different. It's like, this is not my projection, I'm somewhere else. And I was in a spiritual community, and it felt so odd in a way. And I knew something was very different. And I was talking to a couple people, and I said, "This is not my dream, is it?" And this person said to me, "No, this is another place." And I said, where is this? And she said, "If I explained it to you, you wouldn't understand. But I can prove to you you're not dreaming." And I said, "How would you do that? That this is not your dream?" She said, go back and look at your body." And so I went back, and I was standing over the bed, and I was watching myself sleep. And so I went back, and I was interacting there. And then I felt I had enough of that experience, and I went back into my body, and I woke up. But that didn't end the experience in the other place. And so for a few minutes or so, I was awake and walking, but simultaneously in the other place where I had been, where I was dreaming. So at least that was experiential evidence to me of a different realm of some sort, that it wasn't just an illusion or a figment of my imagination.
I didn't get the last part. Did you get the last part? He was waking. You woke up.
I woke up. I woke up. I got out of bed. I walked to the bathroom. But while I was waking, I was in both places.
So you were still talking to the other people?
Yeah, I was, and it was very disconcerting.
But what was the message about look at your body?
Well, because I was speculating whether this was my dream or my projection, or I was somewhere else. And so she said, "Well, go look at your body and you'll see you're in bed, but you have, you're not dreaming, because you can come here and you can go there." But that's really not the important. The important point is that it led me to believe that there are different realms of existence. As you say, the Father has many mansions. And recently I had a dream of kind of what you would describe as the causal realm, where they were just incorporeal entities and that whatever they thought manifested. But it wasn't a pleasant realm because people were competing with each other and creating images to entrap other people and absorb them. And that dream too had a very odd feel, that it was not my mental projection, that I was somewhere else. So there's a fear.
That was the world of lawyers.
Yeah. So, to use your metaphor, given that belief system that has arisen in this way, there's sort of a fear that if I totally detached myself from, or was totally disidentified with the body-mind and stepped through that door, like, your shirt gets caught and you're kind of stuck in the middle, and kind of end up in some, I don't know, some different realm that's not too pleasant. And as maybe odd as it may seem, the point is, I notice for me that there's something to that belief system, and I just wanted to mention that to you to get your assistance in deconstructing that belief, or to the extent that that belief may be an impediment in totally letting go.
In a sense, you cannot fall in a place which is worse than this one. So that should reassure you. But ultimately, all of these realms, they are dreams, you see, they are dreams for consciousness. As long as we believe to be a separate entity, the separate entity may fall from one realm into another realm, and the fear is for the separate entity. But the consciousness can never be in a realm. Whatever realm there is always going to be in consciousness, not the other way around.
And
so therefore, consciousness cannot fall in a realm. Only an entity can fall.
Right. And of course, if the knowing is full and established, that I'm consciousness, and then of course, there is no danger of falling anywhere or possibility of harm, of course.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe it's a moot question because since you can't partially be pregnant, you can't partially let go and still go through the eye of the needle.
But Ksimaraja says, in one instant one liberates oneself, in one instant one binds oneself. We are bound only as long as we believe to be something else than consciousness. So the part of us that recognizes itself to be consciousness, this part will always be there. And this part will always be free. So who cares about the rest? That's why there is this idea of Jivan Mukti, liberation in this lifetime. Only even one instant of truth is eternal and will always be free. So that part, that which has recognized that, is free from death. The rest goes, the body goes, the mind goes, and that remains. In other words, that which remains is in us the freedom, the reality, the love, the consciousness.
And would you say as well that at that point of going through the door or passing through the eye of the needle, in essence, we're taken? In other words, there's no individual volition left.
It's a gateless gate, because on the other side of the gate you are that which you have always been, and that which you were before. So just as the state that was there before we understood the truth about Santa Claus was a state that was in fact devoid of Santa Claus. So our understanding of the true nature of Santa Claus didn't kill Santa Claus, because Santa Claus was not there in the first place. In the same way, the understanding of the universality of consciousness didn't kill a separate entity, because there was not such a separate entity before in the first place. But the great revelation is that this seemingly simple, human, casual consciousness, which is hearing these words, is in fact the source of everything. That it never dies, that it is the reality is, and we know that the reality never dies, but
Thank you.
let me go online to see whether. So, we are going to go a little over with time, because we had this 25 minutes of problems in the beginning. Mary, the idea of being part of universal consciousness doesn't seem to be the issue for me now. However, in a busy world, transitioning from one activity to another seems to disrupt the flow. I notice that if I am on the internet checking up on news headlines and research interesting articles, I notice that I have exposed myself to a sudden bombardment of mental focusing. Then when I go out for a walk in nature, on my way to the grocery store, the transition is almost abrupt. All activities which engage interest and have their importance, there must be a way, however, to transition from one to the other that doesn't feel like a switching off and switching on effect, possibly like the eyes open and eyes close experiment. Or should it be to avoid being totally consumed by an activity such as being on the internet, so as not to allow for the connection to awareness to be totally lost? There is a natural, spontaneous shift of interest from the world of phenomena to the presence. That takes place as a result of our love for the truth, of our investigation, of our sadhana, of our goodwill to realign the way we perceive with the truth that has been experienced or of which we have the intuition. As a result, there is a transfer of reality, so to speak. In ignorance, 100% of the reality is attributed to the phenomena, 0% to the presence, which is completely ignored. And then, as we become interested in the truth, we become aware of the element of reality there is in consciousness. And it is like as if the realities that had been invested in the world of objects was some kind of fluid that was imprisoned out there in the objective world, and as if a valve had been suddenly opened that enables for this fluid to flow from there back to the presence. And so over time, the realities that seem to be invested in the world seem to be divested from there and reinvested in the consciousness. So it's a movement like this, from here to there, but then it grows so big that then it encompasses everything. So then I go back to the question of transitioning from one activity to the other. When you are not completely in your case, but still to some extent involved with one type of activity, when we go from this activity to another activity, from one object to another object, there seems to be a big discontinuity, a big jump. Whereas if you are to a large extent divested from the object, the presence remains the same. So there is, as we move from one activity to another, there is a sense of continuity, because the continuity is not in that which is perceived, but it is in the consciousness. So this feeling of transition will disappear and be replaced with a feeling of continuity in your life. The feeling that, for instance, you never go to sleep, because a big transition, for instance, to give you an example, a big transition among activities is when we move from the waking state to sleep, dream state or deep sleep state. That's a big jump in activities. And at some point, you will see that you don't sleep any longer. There is, you are in your true nature as a witness of the dream, as a witness of the waking state. But you don't transition. Things transition within you, you don't transition.